So you have been told a diamond is forever, that it is rare, that it is precious, that 2 months of your salary is the correct price to prove that you are in love. Here is the part that should stop you cold. The stone on that ring is one of the most common gemstones on Earth. It is worth a fraction of what you paid the moment you leave the store, and almost every instinct you have about it was written by an advertising agency. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how one company took a shiny rock with almost no natural scarcity, manufactured the scarcity, then manufactured the desire, and sold the whole illusion back to you as an ancient tradition. And I am going to show you why, in 2026, that illusion is finally cracking apart in their hands. To understand the trick, go back before it worked. For most of history, diamonds really were rare. They came from a handful of riverbeds in India, and later from Brazil in quantities so small that a diamond was a stone for emperors and kings, not for ordinary people getting married. Scarcity was real, and so the price took care of itself. That world was tiny. Total supply was measured in a few pounds a year, spread across the courts of Europe and Asia. Nobody needed to advertise a diamond, because there were barely any to sell, and the people buying them were already the richest humans alive. A diamond meant power because a diamond was genuinely almost impossible to get. Then, in 1870, everything changed. Prospectors struck diamonds in South Africa, near a town that became Kimberley, and they did not find a trickle. They found a mountain. Suddenly, diamonds were being pulled out of the ground by the ton, not the ounce, and every economic student can tell you what happens next. When supply explodes, the price collapses. The mine owners could see the disaster coming. If everyone sold their diamonds at once, the stones would be revealed as what they actually were, which is semi-precious rocks that are far more common than the world believed. So a British businessman named Cecil Rhodes started buying the mines. One by one, he consolidated them, and in 1888, he founded a single company to control them all. He called it De Beers. The plan was simple and ruthless. If you own nearly all of the supply, you do not have to accept the market price. You get to set it. And you set it by doing the one thing every mine owner had been too greedy to do alone. You keep most of the diamonds in the ground, or locked in a vault, and you release only a trickle. Artificial scarcity, engineered on purpose, from a resource that was no longer scarce at all. Controlling the mines was only half the machine. Over the next century, De Beers built what was essentially a global choke point for the entire diamond trade. Almost every rough diamond on the planet, whether it came from Africa, from Russia, or from anywhere else, was funneled through a single selling operation in London. Buyers were not allowed to negotiate. A few times a year, hand-picked dealers called sightholders were invited to a viewing, handed a sealed box of diamonds, and quoted a price. You could take the box or leave it, but you could not haggle, and if you complained, you were simply never invited back. At its peak, this one company controlled somewhere around 80 to 90% of the world's diamonds. And when demand dipped, De Beers did not lower prices. It bought its own diamonds back and stockpiled them, holding billions of dollars of stones in vaults specifically so that the world would never see how many diamonds actually exist. The price of a diamond was not discovered by a market, it was dictated by a cartel. But a controlled supply is worthless without demand. And in the 1930s, that was the problem. Diamond prices were sagging. Americans were buying smaller stones, and in a country that was not obsessed with diamonds, there was no reason that had to change. So in 1938, De Beers hired an American advertising agency called NWA and gave them a very unusual assignment, not to sell a product, but to sell an emotion. The agency's insight was brilliant and a little sinister. They would tie the diamond to the one purchase a man could never admit was about money: love. If they could convince the public that a diamond was the only acceptable symbol of a serious proposal, then every engagement forever would require buying one. In 1947, a copywriter named Francis Geraghty, working late and almost out of ideas, wrote 4 words that would become one of the most successful slogans in history: "A diamond is forever." Read that slogan again, because it is doing 2 jobs at once. It tells you a diamond represents eternal love, but it also tells you something far more useful to De Beers, that you must never, ever sell it. If no one ever resells their diamond, then no second-hand market can ever appear to compete with the new stones. and the world never finds out what a used diamond is really worth. Forever was not romance. Forever was supply control disguised as poetry. Those traditions you think are ancient were advertisements. The idea that an engagement demands a diamond ring is not thousands of years old. In its modern form, it is younger than the television. Before the campaign, only a small share of American engagement rings held a diamond. Within a few decades, it was the overwhelming majority. Then they went global. In Japan, before De Beers arrived, the diamond engagement ring essentially did not exist. The company ran the same emotional playbook, and in a single generation, the share of Japanese brides receiving a diamond went from barely 5% to around 70%. An entire nation's romantic tradition, invented from scratch by a marketing department. They even invented the price. How much should you spend? There was no natural answer, so De Beers supplied one. In America, the campaign suggested 1 month's salary, then quietly nudged it to 2. In Japan, they suggested 3. That rule of thumb your parents repeated as common sense was not wisdom passed down through the ages. It was a number chosen by the seller to maximize what you would pay. Here is the part the romance is designed to hide. A diamond is a terrible financial asset. The moment you walk out of the jewelry store, your ring is worth a fraction of what you paid, often somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 of the price. Retail markups are enormous, and when you try to sell the stone back, you discover the ugly truth the slogan was built to prevent. Almost no one wants to buy your used diamond, and the ones who do will offer you a humiliating price. The reason is exactly the machine we described. The high price only holds as long as the flood of diamonds stays hidden in vaults and no one resells. The instant you try to turn your diamond back into cash, you are competing against a supply so large it was deliberately concealed from you. An asset that crashes the moment you try to sell, it is not an investment. It is a consumable dressed up as an heirloom. And then there was the blood. For years, some of those diamonds were mined in war zones and sold to fund brutal civil conflicts in places like Sierra Leone and Angola, where they came to be known as conflict diamonds or blood diamonds. The industry's reputation cracked, and under public pressure, it created a certification scheme, the Kimberley process, in 2003 to prove stones were conflict-free. Critics argue it still leaves enormous loopholes to this day. For a century, the cartel looked unbreakable. But controlling 80% of the world only works if you actually control the mines, and slowly the world found diamonds De Beers did not own. Huge news sources opened in Russia, in Canada, and in Australia, and their owners had no reason to funnel their stones through London and take orders from a competitor. As those diamonds escaped the single channel, De Beers' grip slipped. Its share of the world market fell from around 85% to roughly 1/3. In the year 2000, the company finally admitted the old strategy was dead, abandoned its role as the world's diamond warehouse, and stopped trying to buy up everyone else's supply to defend the price. There were legal problems too. For decades, De Beers operated as such a naked cartel that its own executives could not safely set foot in the United States because American antitrust law treats price fixing as a crime. The company that taught the world to worship diamonds spent years unable to fully do business in its single largest market. And then the stone itself betrayed them. Scientists learned to grow diamonds in a factory, and not fakes, not imitations, but real diamonds, chemically and physically identical to the ones dug out of the earth, indistinguishable without specialized equipment. If a diamond's value was ever really about the stone, this would not matter. But of course, it was never about the stone. The market did what markets do to things that are no longer scarce. As lab-grown diamonds scaled up, their price fell off a cliff, dropping by something like 70 to 90% in just a few years, and dragging the price of mined diamonds down with them. De Beers, the company that spent a century insisting a diamond is forever and priceless, was reduced to launching its own cheap lab-grown brand, and then, as prices kept sliding, retreating from it. By 2026, the illusion is visibly failing. A young couple can now buy a stone that is scientifically identical to a mined diamond for a small fraction of the price, and a growing number of them are asking the obvious question: if these are the same, what exactly was I ever paying for? The answer is the whole story. You were paying for the marketing, the scarcity, and the slogan. So the next time someone tells you a diamond is forever, remember what that sentence was actually built to do. The value was never in the stone. It was in the story, a story written by a cartel to turn a common rock into the most profitable illusion in history. And the strange, hopeful thing about a story is this: once enough people stop believing it, it stops being true.